It was a rainy evening in the bustling city, and Daniel stood outside a grand hotel, his heart pounding in his chest. The tall building was lit up with golden lights flickering in the night like stars brought down to earth. The rain drummed softly against his black umbrella as he shifted his weight from one foot to the other, nervous about what was inside. Daniel had just arrived in town for a big business meeting. He had never stayed in a hotel like this one before. He felt out of place like a small fish in a giant ocean. He took a deep breath, trying to calm his racing thoughts, and finally stepped inside the hotel lobby. Once inside, the warmth enveloped him. He glanced around, and his eyes widened at the opulence around him. The marble floors gleamed under the chandeliers, casting a soft glow over the guests arriving and departing. The rich scent of polished wood and fresh flowers hung in the air, making him feel like he had stepped into another world. "Good evening, sir," a young bellhop said, his voice smooth as silk. He wore a smart uniform and a welcoming smile. Daniel looked down at the heavy suitcase at his feet, then back up at the bellhop. Yes, please." The bellhop nodded and bent to lift the suitcase, which made Daniel feel a little embarrassed. "As I said, sir, it's my job," the bellhop reassured him, his eyes glimmering with a warm kindness. Daniel let out a small chuckle, but inside he felt odd. Was it this easy to ask for help? They walked together towards the elevator, the bellhop wheeling the suitcase behind him. Daniel couldn't help but notice how effortlessly the young man moved, even with the heavy load. It was a skill that comes from practice. Daniel, on the other hand, felt like he was struggling with far more than just bags. When they reached the elevator, the bellhop pressed the button for the floor. A soft ping echoed, and the doors slid open smoothly. Daniel stepped inside, trying to ignore the tension creeping up his back. The bellhop pushed the suitcase inside and stepped in after him. The doors closed slowly, almost sealing Daniel in a small metal box with the stranger. As the elevator ascended, Daniel felt the silence wrap around them. He glanced sideways at the bellhop. "Thank you," he said, breaking the tension. "I really appreciate it." The bellhop asked, his tone friendly and genuine. "I'm from a small town in Ohio," Daniel replied, feeling a little braver now. "It must be nice," the bellhop said, his eyes lighting up. "I've always wanted to visit the countryside." As the bellhop spoke, Daniel sensed a longing hidden behind his words. It was a familiar feeling, and it reminded him of hopes he had buried under responsibility and fear, especially after taking this job. Before long, the elevator stopped, and they stepped out onto the floor. The bellhop pulled the suitcase behind him as they approached Daniel's room. The key card slid easily into the slot, and the door clicked open. "Here we are, sir," the bellhop said, smiling. Daniel moved to thank him again, but something caught his eye, a glint on the wall. A large painting hung adjacent to the door, showing a serene landscape that seemed to pull you into its depths. The bellhop asked, following Daniel's gaze. "Yes," Daniel said, focusing back on the bellhop. The young man paused, surprise flitting across his face. "Actually, yes. The painting is from an artist who grew up in the city but found inspiration in the countryside." Daniel felt an echo of understanding in that moment. The bellhop wasn't just a face in a uniform, he was a person with dreams and desire just like him. Daniel asked, feeling bolder. The bellhop hesitated for a moment, and Daniel noticed the momentary flicker of longing in his eyes. I'd like to travel someday, experience things beyond this city." Daniel smiled, part of him reflecting on how life could weigh heavy but also lift you. "You should," he said gently, his voice full of encouragement. The bellhop nodded thoughtfully before placing the heavy suitcase down inside the room. Daniel grabbed the handle to pull it in, wanting to make sure the bellhop didn't carry it any longer than necessary. "Thank you for your help," Daniel said earnestly. "I really appreciate it." The bellhop stepped back, smoothing his uniform. "If you need anything else, just dial the front desk," Daniel said, nodding. The bellhop paused, turning back towards Daniel, curious. Daniel asked, feeling compelled to know more about the person who helped him today. "Ryan," the bellhop answered, a shy smile touching his lips. "Nice to meet you too, Ryan," Daniel replied, feeling the connection only grow stronger. "Good luck with your painting," he added as the door finally closed between them. That evening, Daniel prepared for his meeting, but his mind kept drifting back to Ryan. The young bellhop had carved a space in his thoughts, nudging him to reassess his own dreams. While he prepared his presentation, a soft spark of inspiration ignited within him. Maybe he, too, needed to reconnect with the dreams he had set aside. The meeting was intense but went smoothly. Daniel's heart raced as he presented his ideas, his confidence building with every word. He felt the room shift, recognition blooming in the eyes of his colleagues and bosses. They nodded, leaning forward as Daniel spoke, and it felt like everything was coming together. He could sense his hard work paying off. When he left the conference room, a wave of relief washed over him. The day had turned out better than he could have hoped. Outside, he took a moment to breathe in the city night air, the rain now a gentle mist. He thought of Ryan, how a simple conversation lifted his spirits and gave him a fresh perspective on his own aspirations. The next morning, Daniel awoke with newfound determination. He decided he would seek out Ryan, not just to thank him again, but perhaps to share some inspiration. Daniel dressed quickly, eager to explore a little of the city before checkout. As he stepped into the lobby, the bellhop was already on duty, a new guest by his side. Daniel felt a sense of urgency and anticipation. He walked closer, his heart quickening. Ryan caught his eye and smiled wide, the kind of smile that lit up a room. "Good morning, Daniel," Ryan greeted warmly. "Actually, I was hoping to talk with you if you have a moment," Daniel said, practically bubbling with the energy of his ideas. "Sure," Ryan motioned to the guest he was helping with a nod and stepped away. "I've been thinking about what you said yesterday," Daniel began, excitement tinging his words. "About wanting to paint, I want to help." Ryan shook his head. "Not really." "I've thought about it a lot, though. You know what? You should make time," Daniel urged, wanting to push Ryan towards those dreams. "I can help." Ryan looked taken aback, but Daniel could see the flicker of hope in his eyes. Ryan asked, genuine surprise in his voice, "Because I think everyone, including you, should follow their dreams. It means a lot to me that you shared that," Daniel said earnestly. Ryan's expression shifted from disbelief to realization. "Absolutely," Daniel said with a smile. The connection they had formed seemed to blossom further with each moment. "In that case," Ryan said, the excitement in his voice making Daniel's heart skip. The next few hours were filled with laughter and exploration. Daniel guided Ryan through simple painting techniques, and in return, Ryan shared hidden gems of the city, places Daniel would never have found on his own. The boundaries between them started to fade as they connected on a deeper level. Daniel found himself remembering the dreams he had tucked away. Ryan inspired him not just to see the beauty around them, but also to embrace the possibility of what lay ahead. Although their time together was brief, it felt monumental. As afternoon turned to evening, their journey brought them back to the hotel. Daniel felt joyful, transformed by a simple connection with this young man. He had discovered something truly valuable through his friendship with Ryan, something beyond business, the importance of dreams and the bonds built through them. Later, as he prepared to leave the city, Daniel walked back to the lobby to say goodbye. He felt a mix of sadness and hope. Ryan was standing near the front desk, his eyes lighting up upon seeing Daniel. "Hey, I just wanted to say thank you for everything," Daniel said, his heart sincere and full. "Thank you for believing in me," Ryan replied, beaming. "I'll definitely paint." They shared a moment, smiles bright, knowing they had made a difference in each other's lives that day. As Daniel stepped outside, he felt lighter, pushing through the doors of the hotel, ready to embrace whatever came next. It was just the beginning of so much more. The thunder of the city surrounded him, but inside, he knew the rain had passed. Both men were now equipped with something special, 2 sets of dreams and 1 unforgettable connection. He stood in the lavish hotel lobby, rain-soaked and slightly dazed, clutching his suitcase like it was a lifeline. It was as if the world had just opened up and swallowed him whole. Lucas had never been in a place quite like this, with towering pillars and chandeliers that sparkled like diamonds overhead. Every corner of the lobby whispered stories of wealth and success, echoing the ambitions of those who artfully moved through it. Lucas blinked, brought back to reality by a cheerful voice. The bellhop stood before him, young, polite, dressed impeccably in a crisp uniform, complete with a shiny cap perked atop his head. Lucas hesitated, glancing at the suitcase with its worn handle and scuffed corners. It felt heavy both physically and emotionally. It was packed with years of dreams, and now he was unsure whether he would find the courage to pursue them. "Yes, please," Lucas replied, unable to hide the disbelief in his voice. This was New York City, where the hustle and bustle often left people feeling small. He stepped forward, adjusting his grip on the suitcase. As the bellhop effortlessly lifted the suitcase, Lucas felt a mix of gratitude and embarrassment. It was just a bag, but it somehow felt like a reflection of everything he was trying to escape. To everyone else, it was a suitcase. To him, it symbolized his past, his struggles, and the hope for something brighter ahead. Walking to the elevator, Lucas couldn't help but observe the vibrant atmosphere around him, guests chatting, laughter echoing, the clinking of glasses from the hotel bar. All of it felt intoxicating and overwhelming at once. The bellhop, who introduced himself as Alex, pressed the button for Lucas's floor. Alex asked, looking up with genuine curiosity. "Yeah," Lucas admitted, the weight of his words sinking in. Alex said, his eyes sparkling with excitement. "New York has a way of transforming lives. A marketing position at a tech startup," Lucas replied, his voice wavering slightly. He could feel the confidence he had built over the past few weeks beginning to erode. "Hey," Alex said, his tone turning serious as if he could sense Lucas's uncertainty. "Just remember, everyone started somewhere." The elevator dinged and doors slid open, revealing a long, carpeted hallway. As they stepped out, a wave of anxiety surged through Lucas. The walls seemed to close in, reminding him of the weight of expectations that sometimes felt unbearable. Arriving at his door, Alex placed the suitcase down with practiced ease. "Here you go." "Thanks, man," Lucas said, opening his wallet to tip him. But as he fumbled for cash, something unexpected happened. Alex held up his hand. "No need, sir." "It's my job," he said, but Lucas was certain this wasn't just about the tip. There was a humility in Alex's demeanor, something earnest. Still, I appreciate it. You made me feel less lost in all of this, Lucas said, searching for the right words to express his gratitude. Just then, something remarkable occurred. Alex the bellhop suddenly bowed his head slightly, a gesture that seemed both casual and reverent. Thank you, sir. Those words landed heavily in the air, catching Lucas off guard. Why would a young man, perhaps his own age, treat him with such deference? It felt almost surreal. The weight of that moment settled deep within him, igniting an unexpected spark. Lucas stepped back, shock on his face, but quickly masked it with a smile. You don't need to bow to me, he chuckled nervously, feeling a rush of self-doubt. It's just part of the job, Alex replied, shrugging off the moment like it had no significance at all. As the door clicked shut, Lucas leaned against it, his heart racing. That tiny bow echoed in his mind. Maybe Alex was right, maybe this city had a way of changing people. But what if he couldn't change? What if all those dreams in his suitcase would stay just that, dreams? In the coming hours, Lucas paced the room, reviewing his notes and preparing for the interview that loomed ahead. But that moment with Alex replayed in his mind. How did something as simple as a bow twist his perception of himself? He remembered a book he once read about the power of perception, how our beliefs shape our realities. If Alex could see something worthy in him, could he dare to see it in himself too? The clock ticked closer to his appointment, and by the time he stepped out of the hotel, Lucas felt lighter. The ghost of doubt still lingered, but it came with a new layer of determination. The walk to the startup office was filled with sights and sounds that both thrilled and intimidated him. Street performers played melodic tunes, vendors shouted about their goods, and people rushed past with purpose. He felt small and insignificant among this whirlwind of life, but between the chaos, a spark of hope flickered within him. He arrived at the building, feeling the rush of adrenaline, heart pounding like a drum. People moved in and out, and he joined the crowd, somehow feeling a little less alone. The interview was tough, but went incredibly well. The team was vibrant and engaged. They placed value on creativity and new ideas. Lucas felt a spark of inspiration from each question they asked, igniting the flame of potential he thought had flickered out long ago. They seemed genuinely interested in his story, his aspirations. When it was over, Lucas stepped back out onto the bustling street, a mix of nerves and excitement swirling inside him. The first rays of confidence had pierced through the clouds of self-doubt that had hung over him for years. The rotten stench of failure no longer suffocated him. As the sun began to set, he made his way back to the hotel, invigorated and alive. The streets glowed with energy, and he found himself humming a tune he couldn't quite name. But the real realization hit when he walked back into the hotel lobby. He spotted Alex behind the front desk, helping a guest. Sudden rush of gratitude, Lucas felt the need to share his experience. He called, waving enthusiastically, surprising even himself. Alex looked up, eyes brightening. "Hey," Lucas exclaimed, ignoring the curious looks from nearby guests. "I felt like I could finally be me." Alex celebrated, his genuine excitement washing over Lucas. "I owe you some of that energy," Lucas said, stepping closer. "Me?" Alex chuckled, dimples creasing his cheeks. "No, really," Lucas insisted. "You treating me with respect opened my eyes. You have no idea how much that little moment meant." Alex shrugged, a hint of shyness creeping into his grin. Lucas shook his head, realizing that Alex had downplayed the importance of kindness and belief, those small yet powerful gestures that could change someone's day or even their life. Lucas asked, recalling their earlier conversation. "Actually, yes. I've always dreamed of visiting Central Park," Alex replied, his eyes lighting up. "Then let's make it happen," Lucas said, his heart racing with an idea that bubbled to the surface. "After I settle into my job, I want to take you." Alex's face lit up, genuine excitement transforming his features. "Absolutely," Lucas said, feeling a sense of camaraderie with this young man who had unknowingly pushed him toward his dreams. That a new adventure hung in the air, a life-changing promise of creativity and friendship. Each of them would lend a hand, helping the other rise. Days turned into weeks, and Lucas settled into his new role. Each morning he felt renewed purpose, like the sun breaking through the clouds after a long storm. He made it a point to visit the lobby frequently, catching glimpses of Alex, who was now a familiar face and a dear friend. Their conversations turned into plans, and laughter flowed freely. Lucas realized how much perspective Alex brought to the table, how much he learned from his unfaltering optimism. In turn, Alex soaked up Lucas's encouragement, gaining confidence in pursuing the dreams he had stashed away. "The park is so beautiful in the spring," Alex said one unseasonably warm day, his eyes shining with anticipation. "You keep talking about it like it's a mythical land." Lucas laughed, his heart full. And so they set a date, planning to embrace the spring sunshine at Central Park. The excitement buzzed as they discussed painting, sketching, and embracing the inspiration surrounding them. Finally, the day arrived. The sun burst through the clouds as if celebrating their journey together. They laughed and chatted, weaving their way through the sea of color in the park, feeling the rhythm of the city pulse between them. When they found a serene spot by the water, they settled down, sketchbooks in hand. Lucas felt a sense of gratitude swell within him, recognizing the bonds they were forming. Alex asked, looking at Lucas with a mix of excitement and nervousness. "Always," Lucas replied. Art flowed from their hands as ideas collided, creating beautiful images brought to life with bright colors and hopeful strokes. Lucas felt liberated, his heart opening like the canvas before him, vibrant and alive. As they shared their visions, they began to realize how deeply interconnected their dreams were. With every brushstroke, Lucas rediscovered the essence of believing in oneself and embracing the connections that bring us closer together. Hours slipped by, and as the sun began to dip low in the sky, casting a golden glow across the landscape, they paused, admiring what they had created. It was more than just a painting, it was a celebration of friendship, resilience, and the daring act of pursuing dreams. Lucas turned to Alex. "Thank you for being part of this journey with me." Alex grinned, genuine joy dancing in his eyes. "This was just as much for me." They stood side by side, letting the moment settle in. Each man had once felt small in their own ways, but together they had created something beautiful, what was once merely a dream becoming reality. Lucas had learned an invaluable lesson that day. It's the connections we form and the belief we nurture within ourselves that ultimately carry us forward. He had come asking for help with his bags, but in the end, he and Alex discovered they were carrying each other's dreams all along, lifting each other up in a world that often felt heavy. And as they looked out over the water, it was clear to both of them that they were just getting started. He stood in the hotel lobby, breathless, his suitcase heavy against the polished marble floor as he glanced around. The lobby was magnificent, a blend of elegance and bustling energy, filled with people dressed in fine suits and glamorous dresses. Lucas felt both out of place and completely captivated. He had stepped into a world of luxury and ambition, but his heartbeat echoed with anxiety. "Excuse me, sir." The voice jolted him from his thoughts. A young bellhop stood before him, his uniform crisp and immaculate, a warm smile on his face that seemed like a beacon amidst the hustle. "Yes, please," Lucas replied, his voice slightly shaky. He glanced down at his suitcase, a threadbare artifact from college days, and felt a wave of embarrassment wash over him. How had he landed in this high-end hotel in the heart of the city, carrying a bag that had seen better days? With deft hands, the bellhop lifted the suitcase as if it weighed nothing, leading Lucas toward the gleaming elevator. The young man introduced himself as Alex, his enthusiasm infectious. "First time in the city. Yeah, I'm here for a job interview," Lucas admitted, his nerves creeping back in. "I'm a little." "Don't be," Alex said, his voice firm but encouraging. "Everyone's nervous about interviews, just be yourself." As the elevator doors closed, the world outside vanished for a moment. The soft hum of the machinery felt like a cocoon, a temporary sanctuary before Lucas had to face the reality of the floor where dreams could either flourish or shatter. Alex asked, one brow raised in curiosity. "Marketing at a tech startup," Lucas answered, his words tinged with both excitement and trepidation. Alex beamed. "You've got this." The elevator dinged, and when the doors opened, Lucas stepped out into a hallway that felt longer than it actually was. As they approached his room, Lucas couldn't help but feel like every unsettling emotion piled heavier on his chest. "Here we are," Alex said, setting the suitcase down with ease. Lucas fished out his wallet to find a tip, his mind racing. What would be the right amount to give this young man who had already lifted his spirits? As he fumbled through $10 bills and loose change, Alex raised his hand. "No need for that, sir. It's my job." Lucas stopped, surprised. "But it's really okay," Alex insisted, almost shyly. But just as Lucas was about to argue, Alex did something that sent a ripple of confusion through him. He bowed slightly, just a hint, but enough to signal humility and respect. The gesture caught Lucas off guard. Why would this bellhop, dressed in a neat uniform, bow to him? A nervous man in a rumpled suit. It felt surreal, as if the very act of kindness had blurred the lines of their social worlds. You really don't have to do that," Lucas said, bewildered but also oddly flattered. "I just believe everyone deserves respect," Alex replied simply, shrugging off the moment as if it was nothing. Lucas felt a surge of warmth wash over him. It wasn't just the action, it was the meaning behind it. In a world that often felt rushed and cold, Alex had created a tiny pocket of humanity, a reminder that kindness existed. After Alex left, Lucas closed the door behind him, leaning back against it as he exhaled slowly. That bow lingered in his mind, swirling with emotions he thought he had buried: self-doubt, nostalgia, and the weight of his past choices. What was disappearing in that moment was the pressure to prove himself, the fear of judgment. He glanced at the suitcase on the floor, seeing it less as a burden and more as a vessel of potential. Hours crept by until the time came for his interview. Lucas dressed carefully, adjusting his tie in the mirror like he was putting on armor. He rehearsed the presentation in his head, but what resonated most was that brief interaction with Alex. It had stirred something he hadn't felt in a long time, a sense of belonging, a flicker of hope. The streets outside buzzed with life, and Lucas made his way to the office building, feeling like an actor stepping onto a stage. He paused at the entrance, taking in the sleek architecture and the hum of industry that surrounded him. He took a deep breath and stepped inside, the nerves now mingling with determination. The interview was a blur of questions and responses. Lucas surprised himself with how passionate he felt discussing his ideas, how every word became a piece of art he was painting in that room. The team lined in, engaged and curious, and by the end he felt the weight of uncertainty lift, replaced by the exhilaration of possibility. When he left the building, exhilarated yet spent, the sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a golden hue over the city. Lucas made his way back to the hotel, his thoughts a whirlwind of expectations and hope. But upon entering the lobby where the atmosphere seemed to hum with energy, he spotted Alex immediately, helping a guest with a large bag. Those familiar dimples appeared when their eyes met, and Lucas felt a surge of gratitude overwhelm him. Lucas called out, practically floating across the lobby. "I think it went really well," Alex said brightly, his eyes sparkling. With a grin spreading across his face, Lucas felt a connection blooming between them. "And I have to thank you for reminding me of that," he said earnestly, brushing aside his nervousness. "That little moment earlier, the bow, it's just basic respect," Alex replied, but his modesty only affirmed Lucas's feelings further. "I want to share this good news," Lucas said, eyes shining. "Can I treat you to lunch tomorrow?" "Sure, I'd like that," Alex said, his smile widening. The crowd swirled around them, but Lucas only focused on the warmth radiating from Alex's gesture. The more they spoke, the more the boundaries of their roles as bellhop and guests seemed to dissolve into something more nuanced, friends sharing ambitions and celebrating successes. The next day they met for lunch, and the connection became even more profound over shared stories and laughter. Lucas found out that Alex was also chasing dreams. He wanted to be an artist and had a passion for painting that was waiting to burst forth. Lucas asked, sipping his coffee intrigued. Alex sighed, his gaze drifting. The table fell silent for a moment as Lucas let those words settle. It echoed his own feelings of doubt and fear, the same emotions that had driven him to seek his way into that very hotel. "Maybe we can help each other," Lucas suggested, suddenly feeling inspired. "You create your art and I'll pour my heart into my work. We can share our progress." Alex's eyes brightened, mingling with surprise and admiration. As they parted that day, Lucas realized how significant that bow had been. It signified not just a respect for roles, but a recognition that everyone, regardless of where they stood in life, was worthy of support and encouragement. Over the following weeks, Lucas carried the rhythm of their time together through life. He settled into his job, riding the waves of challenge and triumph, but also took the time to delve into creativity with Alex. They began meeting regularly to paint in Central Park, where colors seemed to spring from the canvas as if life itself flowed through them. Each meeting became a celebration of ideas, a refuge from the chaos of the world outside. And with every brushstroke, Lucas discovered a new layer of himself, his dreams unfolding not just as projects, but as a shared journey with Alex, a friendship rooted in hope and shared aspirations. One day, while seated on a picnic blanket surrounded by the vibrant hues of green and gold, Lucas turned to Alex. "I thought I was just trying to escape my routine," Alex said, grinning, "but it turned into something way more." A connection which had sprouted from a single act of kindness, a bow had become a bond that changed both their lives. Lucas had stepped into a new reality where the lines of possibility had blurred and fear transformed into action. As they wrapped up another productive day, the sun sank low behind the skyline, casting a warm glow over the park. Lucas breathed in deeply, feeling the energy of the moment settle within him. "Let's create a mural," Lucas proposed, a spark igniting his imagination. "Now that sounds incredible," Alex responded, his eyes lighting up with fervor. That same feeling of belonging resonated again inside him, stronger now, woven from the friendship they had built from vulnerability and courage. It didn't take long for them to find a wall in a vibrant part of the city that needed life. Armed with paint cans, brushes, and their shared visions, they poured their hearts onto that blank canvas that first day, transforming it with colors that told their story: courage, friendship, dreams, and a fresh start. As they painted, people stopped to watch, some even joining in on their artistic endeavors. With every stroke, their mural began to breathe, in homage to their unexpected journey, and Lucas found clarity. The bellhop's simple act of respect had catalyzed a wave of transformation that reached far beyond the hotel lobby that day. Then came the day of the mural's grand reveal, and with it, a crowd gathered, curious and excited. Lucas and Alex stood side by side, anticipation coursing through them. They pulled back the sheets covering their work, revealing a vibrant mural that captured not just their journey, but the essence of every person who dared to dream. They watched as the crowd erupted in applause, the joy of creation radiating through the air. Lucas looked over at Alex, who could hardly contain his excitement. "This is just the beginning," Lucas said, a sense of purpose echoing in his voice. Alex replied, looking out at the sea of faces, each one hopeful and inspired. In that moment, they stood as proof that sometimes life takes unexpected twists and turns. It can transform a brief encounter into a life-changing journey born from vulnerability, respect, and the courage to chase dreams. As the crowd dispersed and night began to envelop the city, Lucas and Alex lingered, taking in their creation, the colors that united their stories now illuminated under the streetlights. Each a reminder of what it meant to truly believe in oneself and in each other. And in that unforgettable moment, Lucas felt a weight lift, launching him into a future filled with possibility, side by side with a friend who had shared in his dreams. He stood in the grand lobby of the hotel, utterly transfixed. The swirling elegance around him felt like a scene from a film. Guests dressed in tailored suits floated effortlessly between the plush couches and the grand staircase, while chandeliers sparkled above like stars brought to earth. Lucas had never seen anything like it. This was a place where dreams seemed to take shape amidst the soft glow of opulence, yet here he was, a nervous guy with a suitcase that had seen better days. It was pouring outside, the city drowning in an unexpected storm, and Lucas felt the weight of the world on his shoulders. As he stared at the heavy suitcase in front of him, he felt the baggage of both hope and fear. He was here for a job interview, a big opportunity at a tech startup that could change everything for him. But the reality of it suffocated him. What if he messed up? What if he didn't belong? "Excuse me, sir," a voice suddenly cut through his thoughts. Lucas turned to see a young bellhop standing beside him, his uniform sharp, his demeanor confident. Lucas blinked, momentarily shocked. Yes. He felt slightly embarrassed, an adult asking for help in a place where everyone seemed so polished and put together. He watched as the bellhop effortlessly lifted his suitcase, and for a brief moment, Lucas felt a flash of gratitude mixed with embarrassment. "I'm Alex," the bellhop said with a friendly grin. "Business?" Lucas responded, watching Alex navigate through the bustling lobby. Alex's enthusiasm brightened the dim corners of Lucas's anxiety. "Yes, it's overwhelming," Lucas admitted, allowing himself to smile, if only a little. "Trust me, you've got this," Alex said as they stepped into the elevator, the doors sliding shut behind them with a soft chime. "Everyone feels out of place here at first." As the elevator began its ascent, Lucas felt a flicker of something hopeful. Alex's energy was infectious, and the weight of the past few weeks gradually lifted off his chest. Lucas asked, curious to know more about the young man who had just injected a dose of confidence into his day. "About 2 years," Alex replied, his eyes gleaming with pride. "I love it. You meet all kinds of people, but it's really about service." "That's admirable," Lucas said, admiration creeping into his voice. He wondered if he could muster such positive energy in his own job. "Here's your floor," Alex said as the elevator dinged again and the doors glided open. He wheeled the suitcase out smoothly with the ease of someone who had done this 1,000 times. Lucas fumbled for his wallet, suddenly anxious. How much should he tip? Did he even have enough cash on him? The suitcase seemed to grow heavier as the moment stretched, and he could feel the pressure build behind his eyes. "Thank you, Alex," Lucas said, finally pulling out a crumpled bill. "I really appreciate your help. You made me feel a little less." Alex replied, his smile unwavering. "That's what I'm here for." As Alex turned to leave, something stirred inside Lucas. It was more than just gratitude, it was a strange urge to acknowledge Alex's kindness in a more meaningful way. He called after him. Alex turned, eyebrows raised in curiosity. Lucas blurted out, surprised by his own request. The bellhop chuckled, caught off guard. "A photo?" "Yeah," Lucas said, feeling vulnerable but determined. "All right," Alex agreed, repositioning himself next to Lucas as they snapped the picture. Lucas grinned, feeling a little lighter. Lucas said as Alex gave a small bow almost instinctively. The action caught Lucas by surprise. "Why would a bellhop bow to him, a stranger?" "Just respecting my guest," Alex replied, shrugging it off, a flicker of humor dancing in his eyes. But the small bow lingered in Lucas's mind. It wasn't just a simple gesture, it spoke volumes about perspective, a shared connection. He felt like he had been given a gift, a reminder that kindness and respect transcend the roles we play in life. Later, in the solitude of his hotel room, Lucas felt a storm of emotions. The interview was just hours away, and he rehearsed answers in his head while the rain pattered softly against the window pane. The familiar doubts crept back in, whispering their familiar mantra, "What if you're not enough?" But as he paused, he couldn't shake the image of Alex's bow. That simple action had ignited something within him, a flicker of self-belief. What if he could show up not just as a candidate, but as someone who deserved to be there? When the time for the interview arrived, Lucas stood in front of the mirror, adjusting his tie. With each mantra, he felt a surge of determination. The office building was sleek and modern, full of light and energy. As he walked through the entrance, Lucas felt the atmosphere buzzing with potential. He took a moment, gathering his thoughts, reminding himself of the person he aspired to be. The interview was rigorous, filled with rapid-fire questions and intense scrutiny. But what happened next surprised him. Instead of folding under pressure, Lucas found himself rising to the occasion. He shared his ideas with enthusiasm, describing how he envisioned creative campaigns and innovative strategies. As the interview progressed, he noticed the nods of approval, expressions of intrigue on the faces in the room. For the first time, he felt he belonged. The younger version of him, the one weighed down by self-doubt, seemed far away. He was no longer just a candidate, he was a contributor, a thinker. When it was over, he felt a rush of relief wash over him as he stepped out onto the bustling streets again. The dreary weather had transformed into a hazy evening, the sunset casting a golden hue across the city. With renewed energy coursing through him, he decided to go back to the hotel and find Alex. As he entered the lobby, he spotted the bellhop again, tending to a busy desk filled with arrivals. Lucas felt an itch of excitement bubble within him. He called, his voice breaking through the crowd. Alex turned, his eyes brightening as he recognized Lucas. He asked, abandoning his post for a moment. Lucas said, feeling a rush of adrenaline. "See." Alex beamed, the pride evident in his expression. "I owe it to you," Lucas replied, his voice warm with sincerity. "That moment we shared, your respect, it shifted how I saw myself." "Wow," Alex said, a hint of humility in his smile. "That's really touching. You deserve to feel that way. But what about you?" Lucas asked, wanting to open up the conversation. Alex paused, a flicker of vulnerability crossing his features. "Yeah, I want to be an artist," Lucas asked, genuinely intrigued. "Sometimes it's just fear, I guess." "Fear of judgment, fear of not being good enough," Alex admitted, and for the first time Lucas saw a glimpse of the self-doubt he had felt just hours earlier. "Look at what we just accomplished. You've already inspired me," Lucas said, stepping closer, determined to lift Alex up as he had been lifted. "Let's inspire each other. I want to help you find the time to paint," Alex asked, his brow furrowing with curiosity. "Let's commit to creating something together," Lucas suggested, feeling the warmth of excitement fill the space between them. "I'd love that," Alex replied, a grin spreading across his face. They exchanged contact information, making plans to meet over the weekend, and Lucas felt that familiar flutter in his chest. This was not just about his own opportunity anymore. It was about forming a bond that could uplift them both. The days turned into weeks, and Lucas started settling into his new job, but he made sure to prioritize those painting sessions with Alex. They met in Central Park, a vibrant dreamscape bursting with life and color. At first, they just sketched together, but soon they transformed ideas into vibrant stories painted on canvas. Every brushstroke became a testament to their journey, a radiant mural of friendship that bloomed between two souls determined to overcome their fears. Lucas lost himself in what it meant to create, and Alex's laughter and encouragement echoed in his ears, transforming moments of doubt into splashes of color. "Look at that," Alex said one day, stepping back from their canvas, eyebrows raised in excitement. "It's more than just colors," Lucas added, reflecting on the gradients of their shared experience. "It's a story of how we didn't let fear hold us back." As the mural began to take shape, they found themselves opening up deeper conversations, sharing stories of childhood dreams, facing failures, and discussing their hopes for the future. They were no longer just acquaintances, they were friends steeled by vulnerability. One afternoon, while seated on a park bench, Lucas looked at Alex. "Do you know why I needed that moment in the hotel lobby so badly?" Alex leaned in, eyes curious. "Because it reminded me that everyone, even a bellhop, has their place in this world," Alex asked, his tone turning serious. "Daily," Lucas confessed. "All my old doubts flood back sometimes." "Me too," Alex admitted quietly, the weight of honesty settling in the space between them. "But it's those fears that make our journeys richer together," Lucas said reassuringly. One evening, standing back to admire the mural they had completed, Lucas felt a swell of pride. This wasn't just paint on a wall, it represented growth, friendship, and the courage to chase dreams. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, casting brilliant shades of orange and gold across the canvas, Lucas and Alex stood side by side. Lucas asked, heart pounding with excitement. "More than ready," Alex replied, beaming, and when they unveiled the mural, a crowd began to gather, eyes wide with wonder. Lucas felt a rush of joy when applause erupted around them. The mural was not just theirs, it belonged to everyone who had thought about their own dreams and wanted to see them come to life. As they stood there, basking in the shared success, Lucas turned to Alex. "Thank you for believing in me." "And thank you for the same," Alex said, his voice steady. They both realized in that moment the bonds we form and how shared experiences can lead to something magnificent. The bellhop's promise of respect had ignited a flame in both of them, reminding them that we all deserve chances and support, transcending the roles we play. He stood in the grand lobby of the hotel, utterly transfixed. The swirling elegance around him felt like a scene from a film. Guests dressed in tailored suits floated effortlessly between the plush couches and the grand staircase, while chandeliers sparkled above like stars brought to earth. Lucas had never seen anything like it. This was a place where dreams seemed to take shape amidst the soft glow of opulence, yet here he was, a nervous guy with a suitcase that had seen better days. It was pouring outside, the city drowning in an unexpected storm, and Lucas felt the weight of the world on his shoulders. As he stared at the heavy suitcase in front of him, he felt the baggage of both hope and fear. He was here for a job interview, a big opportunity at a tech startup that could change everything for him. But the reality of it suffocated him. What if he messed up? What if he didn't belong? "Excuse me, sir," a voice suddenly cut through his thoughts. Lucas turned to see a young bellhop standing beside him, his uniform sharp, his demeanor confident. Lucas blinked, momentarily shocked. Yes. He felt slightly embarrassed, an adult asking for help in a place where everyone seemed so polished and put together. He watched as the bellhop effortlessly lifted his suitcase, and for a brief moment Lucas felt a flash of gratitude mixed with embarrassment. "I'm Alex," the bellhop said with a friendly grin. "Business?" Lucas responded, watching Alex navigate through the bustling lobby. Alex's enthusiasm brightened the dim corners of Lucas's anxiety. "Yes, it's overwhelming," Lucas admitted, allowing himself to smile if only a little. "Trust me, you've got this," Alex said as they stepped into the elevator, the door sliding shut behind them with a soft chime. "Everyone feels out of place here at first." As the elevator began its ascent, Lucas felt a flicker of something hopeful. Alex's energy was infectious, and the weight of the past few weeks gradually lifted off his chest. Lucas asked, curious to know more about the young man who had just injected a dose of confidence into his day. "About 2 years," Alex replied, his eyes gleaming with pride. "I love it. You meet all kinds of people, but it's really about service." "That's admirable," Lucas said, admiration creeping into his voice. He wondered if he could muster such positive energy in his own job. "Here's your floor," Alex said as the elevator dinged again and the doors glided open. He wheeled the suitcase out smoothly, with the ease of someone who had done this 1,000 times. Lucas fumbled for his wallet, suddenly anxious. How much should he tip? Did he even have enough cash on him? The suitcase seemed to grow heavier as the moment stretched, and he could feel the pressure build behind his eyes. "Thank you, Alex," Lucas said, finally pulling out a crumpled bill. "I really appreciate your help. You made me feel a little less," Alex replied, his smile unwavering. As Alex turned to leave, something stirred inside Lucas. It was more than just gratitude, it was a strange urge to acknowledge Alex's kindness in a more meaningful way. He called after him. Alex turned, eyebrows raised in curiosity. Lucas blurted out, surprised by his own request. The bellhop chuckled, caught off guard. "A photo?" "Yeah," Lucas said, feeling vulnerable but determined. "All right," Alex agreed, repositioning himself next to Lucas as they snapped the picture. Lucas grinned, feeling a little lighter. Lucas said as Alex gave a small bow almost instinctively. The action caught Lucas by surprise. Why would a bellhop bow to him, a stranger? "Just respecting my guest," Alex replied, shrugging it off, a flicker of humor dancing in his eyes. But the small bow lingered in Lucas's mind. It wasn't just a simple gesture, it spoke volumes about perspective, a shared connection. He felt like he had been given a gift, a reminder that kindness and respect transcend the roles we play in life. Later, in the solitude of his hotel room, Lucas felt a storm of emotions. The interview was just hours away, and he rehearsed answers in his head while the rain pattered softly against the window pane. The familiar doubts crept back in, whispering their familiar mantra, "What if you're not enough?" But as he paused, he couldn't shake the image of Alex's bow. That simple action had ignited something within him, a flicker of self-belief. What if he could show up not just as a candidate, but as someone who deserved to be there? When the time for the interview arrived, Lucas stood in front of the mirror, adjusting his tie. With each mantra, he felt a surge of determination. The office building was sleek and modern, full of light and energy. As he walked through the entrance, Lucas felt the atmosphere buzzing with potential. He took a moment, gathering his thoughts, reminding himself of the person he aspired to be. The interview was rigorous, filled with rapid-fire questions and intense scrutiny. But what happened next surprised him. Instead of folding under pressure, Lucas found himself rising to the occasion. He shared his ideas with enthusiasm, describing how he envisioned creative campaigns and innovative strategies. As the interview progressed, he noticed the nods of approval, expressions of intrigue on the faces in the room. For the first time, he felt he belonged. The younger version of him, the one weighed down by self-doubt, seemed far away. He was no longer just a candidate, he was a contributor, a thinker. When it was over, he felt a rush of relief wash over him as he stepped out onto the bustling streets again. The dreary weather had transformed into a hazy evening, the sunset casting a golden hue across the city. With renewed energy coursing through him, he decided to go back to the hotel and find Alex. As he entered the lobby, he spotted the bellhop again, attending to a busy desk filled with arrivals. Lucas felt an itch of excitement bubble within him. He called, his voice breaking through the clang. Alex turned, his eyes brightening as he recognized Lucas. He asked, abandoning his post for a moment. Lucas said, feeling a rush of adrenaline. "See." Alex beamed, the pride evident in his expression. "I owe it to you," Lucas replied, his voice warm with sincerity. "That moment we shared, your respect, it shifted how I saw myself." "Wow," Alex said, a hint of humility in his smile. "That's really touching. You deserve to feel that way. But what about you?" Lucas asked, wanting to open up the conversation. Alex paused, a flicker of vulnerability crossing his features. "Yeah, I want to be an artist," Lucas asked, genuinely intrigued. "Sometimes it's just fear, I guess. Fear of judgment, fear of not being good enough," Alex admitted, and for the first time, Lucas saw a glimpse of the self-doubt he had felt just hours earlier. "Look at what we just accomplished." "You've already inspired me," Lucas said, stepping closer, determined to lift Alex up as he had been lifted. "Let's inspire each other. I want to help you find the time to paint." Alex asked, his brow furrowing with curiosity. Let's commit to creating something together, Lucas suggested, feeling the warmth of excitement fill the space between them. I'd love that, Alex replied, a grin spreading across his face. They exchanged contact information, making plans to meet over the weekend, and Lucas felt that familiar flutter in his chest. This was not just about his own opportunity anymore, it was about forming a bond that could uplift them both. The days turned into weeks, and Lucas started settling into his new job, but he made sure to prioritize those painting sessions with Alex. They met in Central Park, a vibrant dreamscape bursting with life and color. At first, they just sketched together, but soon they transformed ideas into vibrant stories painted on canvas. Every brushstroke became a testament to their journey, a radiant mural of friendship that bloomed between two souls determined to overcome their fears. Lucas lost himself in what it meant to create, and Alex's laughter and encouragement echoed in his ears, transforming moments of doubt into splashes of color. Look at that, Alex said one day, stepping back from their canvas, eyebrows raised in excitement. It's more than just colors, Lucas added, reflecting on the gradients of their shared experience. It's a story of how we didn't let fear hold us back. As the mural began to take shape, they found themselves opening up deeper conversations, sharing stories of childhood dreams, facing failures, and discussing their hopes for the future. They were no longer just acquaintances, they were friends steeled by vulnerability. One afternoon, while seated on a park bench, Lucas looked at Alex. Do you know why I needed that moment in the hotel lobby so badly? Alex leaned in, eyes curious. Because it reminded me that everyone, even a bellhop, has their place in this world. Alex asked, his tone turning serious. Daily, Lucas confessed, all my old doubts flood back sometimes. Me too, Alex admitted quietly, the weight of honesty settling in the space between them. But it's those fears that make our journeys richer together, Lucas said, reassuringly. One evening, standing back to admire the mural they had completed, Lucas felt a swell of pride. This wasn't just paint on a wall, it represented growth, friendship, and the courage to chase dreams. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, casting brilliant shades of orange and gold across the canvas, Lucas and Alex stood side by side. Lucas asked, heart pounding with excitement. More than ready, Alex replied, beaming. And when they unveiled the mural, a crowd began to gather, eyes wide with wonder. Lucas felt a rush of joy when applause erupted around them. The mural was not just theirs, it belonged to everyone who had thought about their own dreams and wanted to see them come to life. As they stood there, basking in the shared success, Lucas turned to Alex. Thank you for believing in me. And thank you for the same, Alex said, his voice steady. They both realized in that moment the bonds we form and how shared experiences can lead to something magnificent. The bellhop's promise of respect had ignited a flame in both of them, reminding them that we all deserve chances and support, transcending the roles we play. As the evening wound down, they left the park together, energized and illuminated not just by the victory of their mural, but by the friendship that had blossomed from an unexpected place. A single moment in the lobby where respect met vulnerability and transformed their futures forever. He asked for help with his bags, unaware that this simple act would alter the course of his life forever. Lucas stood in the opulent lobby of a luxurious hotel, rain dripping from his umbrella onto the gleaming marble floor. The towering chandeliers above seemed to sparkle like distant stars, illuminating the finely dressed guests who moved through the space, chatting and laughing. Lucas felt out of place, like an imposter in a world of privilege and sophistication. His suitcase was heavy, not just with clothes, but with the weight of expectations and self-doubt. He was in the city for a job interview at a tech startup, and his heart raced at the thought. Just outside, the storm raged on, but here, inside the hotel, it felt almost serene. "Excuse me, sir." The voice cut through the noise, pulling Lucas from his thoughts. A young bellhop, barely out of his teens, stood beside him, his smile warm and inviting. Lucas glanced down at his suitcase, feeling a twinge of embarrassment. He was a grown man asking for help, but the heavy weight of the suitcase felt as if it represented more than just belongings. "Yes, please," Lucas said, nodding, almost grateful. The bellhop easily lifted the suitcase, and Lucas wondered how someone so young could seem so confident, so adept at navigating this world. "Name's Alex," the bellhop introduced himself as they made their way to the elevator. "Yeah," Lucas replied, trying to shake off the nerves. Alex beamed, his energy infectious. "It's a marketing role at a tech startup," Lucas said, feeling his stomach twist in knots. "Trust me, you do," Alex said with a reassuring nod. "Everyone feels that way at first." Lucas couldn't help but smile. There was something about Alex's demeanor that eased his mind, if only for a moment. The elevator doors closed, the two rode silently upward, the weight of anticipation filling the air. Alex stood tall, radiating confidence, while Lucas fidgeted, his nerves rising. The elevator pinged, and the doors opened to a long, plush-carpeted hallway. Lucas stepped out, his heart pounding harder. "Here we are," Alex said, placing the suitcase down in front of Lucas's room. As he turned to leave, Lucas dug into his wallet, feeling the heat of embarrassment creeping back. How much should he tip? Surely he should show his appreciation. Lucas called out before Alex could walk away. The bellhop turned, a curious eyebrow raised. Lucas said, surprising even himself, it felt momentous, the start of something new. Alex chuckled, caught off guard but clearly pleased. They stood together, arms around each other, and snapped a quick picture. When they pulled away, Lucas felt lighter, almost silly with excitement. Thank you for your help, he said, a genuine smile on his face. Of course. Alex called, his own grin still rooted on his face. But just before he turned to go, he gave a slight bow, an action so unexpected that it caught Lucas off guard. Why would a bellhop bow to him, a nervous man standing in a hotel hallway? Just a show of respect, Alex said, shrugging it off as if it were something ordinary. The gesture lingered in Lucas's mind, a small act that felt profound. It shifted something in him, igniting a flicker of self-belief. What if he really did belong? What if he could seize this moment? Later that afternoon, Lucas paced his hotel room, rehearsing answers in front of the mirror. The storm raged outside, but inside he felt the stirrings of excitement. That brief interaction with Alex replayed in his mind. You've got this, he whispered to himself, echoing the bellhop's words. When the time finally arrived for his interview, he gathered his thoughts and stepped outside. The rain had stopped, leaving the streets glistening like polished diamonds. He took a deep breath and felt the energy of the city thrumming around him. He was stepping into a new chapter, and he felt hopeful. The office building was sleek and modern, filled with bright lights and bustling energy. As he walked through the entrance, he felt the poised confidence radiating from those around him, a stark contrast to the hesitation that had filled him just hours earlier. Inside the conference room, the interview began. They asked tough questions, probing his experience and thoughts on marketing strategies. With each question, Lucas found himself rising to the occasion, fueled by a newfound confidence. He spoke passionately about innovative ideas, his thoughts flowing like a river. As they nodded with interest, Lucas realized he was no longer just a candidate on trial. He was a contributor sharing his vision. After the interview, he stepped outside, filled with exhilaration. He had done it. As he walked through the streets, he felt the pulse of the city in his veins, the shadows of self-doubt slowly fading into the background. With the sun setting beyond the skyline, he decided to return to the hotel. He wanted to share his triumph with Alex, the bellhop who had sparked this transformation. Arriving back at the hotel, he spotted Alex behind the front desk, assisting a guest. Lucas felt an unexpected surge of excitement. He called, waving his arms in greeting. Alex looked up, beaming when he recognized him. Lucas exclaimed, his heart racing. See, Alex cheered, his pride evident in every word. I owe that to you, Lucas admitted, feeling a warmth spread through him. Encouragement really made a difference. Wow, Alex said, his expression shifting to one of genuine surprise. I mean it, Lucas emphasized. They chatted for a few moments longer, sharing stories and laughter, and Lucas felt a bond forming between them, something real that transcended their roles as a guest and a bellhop, but a spark of curiosity nudged him. What about you? Alex hesitated, a flicker of vulnerability flashing in his eyes. Honestly, I want to be an artist. Then make time for it, Lucas replied, a wave of inspiration washing over him. Alex asked, eyes wide with possibility. Absolutely, Lucas said, feeling empowered. Let's commit to sharing our goals and lifting each other up. Over the next few weeks, their friendship flourished. Lucas secured the job, and with each new day, he felt more confident and capable. He also prioritized time with Alex at the hotel, where they would talk about their goals and dreams over coffee in the lobby. Together, they ventured out to local art galleries, invigorated by each other's visions, reminding Lucas once again of the importance of support and respect. Alex painted during free hours, and Lucas found that he had a knack for marketing creative ideas. Their lives intertwined in ways that felt destined, lifting one another higher. But one evening, while sitting in the cozy hotel cafe, Lucas noticed a shadow cross Alex's face. He asked, leaning forward. I don't know if I'll ever be brave enough, Alex confessed, his voice barely above a whisper. Lucas prompted gently. To seriously pursue painting, Alex admitted. Lucas reached across the table, placing a reassuring hand on Alex's. The bellhop who bowed in respect to me is also an artist. You're more than what this job does. Slowly, Alex's eyes lifted, and Lucas could see the flicker of determination igniting once again. Maybe I can try, he said quietly. Let's push each other, Lucas proposed, his heart swelling with hope. We can dedicate specific time each week to meet and create together. You'll paint, and I'll dive into my projects. Alex said, a grin spreading across his face. From that moment on, they met regularly to create. They explored painting in different parks, capturing the essence of life around them. Their bond deepened with each stroke on the canvas, every moment filled with laughter and dreams. One afternoon, they found a wall in a busy area that needed life. Lucas felt an idea bubbling within him. Let's create a mural, he said, excitedly clapping his hands together. Alex's eyes widened in delight. Yes, the idea transformed into action, and they spent weeks gathering supplies and planning. They met every weekend, sketching designs, brainstorming themes, and preparing to make their mark on that wall. As the mural began to take shape, people in the neighborhood began to notice. Curious looks turned into supportive comments, and soon they garnered a small crowd of onlookers who cheered them on. During breaks, they reflected on their progress. Lucas said one day, the sun set behind them, framing the mural with golden reflections. Honestly, no, Alex replied, shaking his head. The colorful mural turned out to be a beautiful representation of their journey. It was not just paint on a wall, it was a tapestry of dreams stitched together with courage and respect. On the day of the grand reveal, a buzz of excitement filled the air. They had invited friends and fellow artists to unveil the mural, and as the sheet fell away, an eruption of applause rang through the crowd. Lucas and Alex stood side by side, heartbeats synchronized with the loud cheers from their supporters. In that moment, they realized they had not only created art, but also a community, a testament to the transformative power of support and shared dreams. Later that evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, they found themselves standing before the mural, now filled with colors and light. Alex exclaimed, astonished by their accomplishment. Together, Lucas added, feeling an overwhelming sense of gratitude. In that moment, Lucas understood. It all began with a simple request for help with his bags. The bow from a bellhop that had flipped a switch in his mind led them both on a journey beyond their fears and into the beautiful space where dreams found life. As they stared at the mural, they didn't just see paint. They saw resilience, friendship, and the power of believing in one another. The experience bonded them deeper than they ever thought possible. They were no longer just a guest in a bellhop. They had become friends, partners, and co-creators in a world filled with possibilities. The city felt alive around them, and for the first time, Lucas embraced it fully, knowing that the journey was just beginning. Each step ahead was now painted in the colors of hope, courage, and respect, a reminder that sometimes the person who helps you carry your burdens can also help you lift off the weight of doubt, leading you to a bright tomorrow. He asked for help with his bags, unaware it would change everything. The rain fell heavily outside the Grand Hotel, each droplet echoing the chaotic storm brewing in Jacob's mind. He stood at the entrance, a well-worn suitcase clutched in his hand, staring at the vibrant lobby filled with elegantly dressed guests. They moved with purpose, laughter mixed with the tinkling of glasses, while Jacob stood rooted in place, feeling like an intruder in this realm of luxury. With every second that ticked by, his anxiety mounted. This trip was meant to mark a critical turning point, his first job interview after months of relentless job searching. Yet at that moment, all Jacob could feel was a gnawing sense of inadequacy. He shifted his weight as another guest brushed past, oblivious to his struggle. The voice shattered his isolation. Jacob turned to find a young bellhop standing before him. The bellhop wore a crisp uniform, complete with a polished cap, and his demeanor radiated confidence and friendliness. "Yes, please," Jacob replied, almost surprised he'd verbally accepted the help. The bellhop's smile seemed genuine, and something about it flickered warmth inside Jacob, momentarily pushing away his nerves. "Great, I'm Alex," the bellhop said, taking hold of the suitcase with ease. Jacob watched as Alex wheeled it effortlessly toward the elevator. In that moment, Jacob felt both gratitude and embarrassment. This was just a bag, but somehow it felt like a symbol of everything he had been carrying in his life, the weight of self-doubt, fear, and unfulfilled dreams. As the elevator doors closed, Jacob caught a glimpse of his own reflection in the polished metal. He looked weary, but beneath that fatigue lay ambition and hope. "Yes, I'm here for a job interview," Jacob admitted. The words hung heavy between them. Exciting, Alex's enthusiasm was contagious. "It's a marketing role at a startup," Jacob said, feeling the apprehension return. "Hey, listen," Alex said, his tone shifting as he leaned in closer. "Everyone feels out of place at first. This city can be intimidating." The elevator chimed and the doors slid open. Jacob stepped out, lightly buoyed by Alex's words. "Thanks, I'll keep that in mind," Jacob said as they approached his room. They arrived at the door where Alex set the suitcase down. Jacob rummaged through his wallet, feeling the familiar pang of anxiety return. How much was appropriate? He called as Alex turned to leave. The bellhop paused, curiosity shining in his eyes. Jacob blurted out without thinking. It was spontaneous, but in that moment it felt meaningful. Alex replied, his face lighting up. They stood side by side and Jacob snapped a quick picture, capturing a fleeting moment that marked the beginning of something significant. "Thanks for your help," Jacob said, flashing a genuine smile. "Anytime, good luck with your interview," Alex said, backing away. But just as he was about to turn, he gave a slight bow movement so unexpected that it caught Jacob off guard. Jacob stammered, surprised and flattered. "It's just respect," Alex replied casually, his smile still bright. Jacob felt a wave of warmth flush over him. That simple bow resonated deeply, shaking him to his core. In that moment, a flicker of self-belief began to kindle within him. If this young man saw something worthy in him, maybe he could too. As the door clicked shut behind him, Jacob leaned against it, the anxiety surging back as he absorbed the significance of what had just happened. That little bow transformed everything for him. Perhaps he could step outside his fears, embrace the opportunity ahead, and make something of himself. Later that afternoon, he paced the hotel room, his mind buzzing with rehearsed lines for the interview. The rain pattered against the window, mirroring his racing thoughts. He tried to focus, but the image of Alex's bow lingered in his mind, a subtle reminder that he was capable. "Okay," Jacob whispered to himself, straightening his shoulders as if putting on armor. He practiced his responses in front of the mirror, channeling encouragement from a stranger who had offered him kindness in a moment of vulnerability. Finally, when the moment arrived, Jacob set out into the city. The rain had eased, but the air was thick with tension as he approached the office building. His heart raced, each pulse a reminder of the stakes involved. Inside, the atmosphere buzzed with ambition and energy, each corner bustling with activity. Jacob took a deep breath, channeling the warmth of that fleeting encounter with Alex. He was here for a reason, he belonged. As the interview unfolded, he faced rapid-fire questions about campaigns and strategies, but rather than feeling overwhelmed, Jacob felt empowered. He shared his ideas with a confidence he hadn't known he possessed. The interviewers lined in, sincere interest flickering across their faces. It felt right. After what felt like an eternity, it was over. Jacob stepped outside, the sun piercing through the clouds and casting a warm glow over the cityscape. He felt exhilarated. He had done it. As he walked the streets, he noticed how vibrant everything felt, as if the city were celebrating with him. Overwhelmed with a desire to share his success, Jacob decided to return to the hotel. He needed to thank Alex for the boost he had given an external belief that stirred something deeply internal. As Jacob walked into the lobby, he immediately spotted Alex still at the front desk. There was an air of familiarity now as their eyes met. "Hey," Jacob called out, waving enthusiastically. Alex looked up, his expression shifting to one of eager curiosity. "I think it went great. I felt so much more confident than I expected," Jacob replied, a grin stretching across his face. "See," Alex said, his pride evident. "I owe that to you," Jacob admitted sincerely. Alex asked, genuinely surprised but pleased. "Absolutely, that bow your respect made me believe I could do this," Jacob shared. As their conversation flowed, Jacob felt the tensions of his earlier self dissolve. Alex was just a bellhop, but he had opened a door to belief, and now Jacob wanted to do the same in return. Jacob asked suddenly, curious to know Alex's dreams. Alex hesitated, shifting his weight. "I've always wanted to be an artist," Jacob challenged gently. "Fear, I guess. Fear of failing, of not being good enough. Working here is comforting, but it feels like it stifles my creativity," Alex said, his voice tinged with vulnerability. Jacob understood that feeling deeply, the fear that seemed to cling to the edges of ambition, ready to sabotage potential. Suddenly, an idea sparked within him. "What if we help each other chase our dreams?" Alex's eyes widened at the suggestion. Jacob said, feeling the energy shift between them. "We can hold each other accountable." Alex replied, laughter bubbling forth, lighting his face. From that moment onward, they committed to a new kind of friendship. They met regularly, exploring what it meant to pursue their passions while still navigating the realities of everyday life. They went for coffee, shared plans for their art, and celebrated small victories. Jacob shared updates about his job search, while Alex came alive with stories about his art. They inspired each other, and the weight of fear began to lift a mutual support that transformed their days. Weeks went by, and before they knew it, Jacob landed the job. He was living the dream he'd envisioned, and the confidence from that fateful moment at the hotel continued to propel him forward. No longer was he the nervous man clutching his suitcase. He felt like a professional ready to make waves in the marketing world. One beautiful afternoon, they met at a nearby park where the trees stood tall and flowers bloomed vibrantly. Jacob looked at Alex, who was lost in thought, sketching in a notepad. "I can't believe how far we've come," Jacob mused, glancing at the mural they had started sketching months earlier. "It's exciting," Alex said, looking up with renewed energy. "That voice is a liar," Jacob said firmly. "You have talent, and everything we've done proves that. You need to trust yourself and keep painting." The words hung in the air, and Jacob observed Alex's expression transition from doubt to determination. Perhaps the respect they had cultivated for one another had spilled over into their art and ambitions. A few weeks later, they decided to take the plunge by creating a mural in their city, something vibrant that would symbolize their journey. Be a collaboration that reflected their growth, not just as individuals but as friends. The mural drew attention, attracting curious onlookers who wondered what paint would soon fill the blank wall. Jacob felt a thrill course through him as they started, the colors coming alive under their brushes. A crowd of supporters began to gather around them, encouraging their work and ideas. Jacob recognized the beauty in this moment. It was empowering, and it felt liberating to share something so raw and real. Before long, the mural became a symbol of resilience, wrapping itself around their stories, struggles, and triumphs. Finally, the day came to unveil their creation. As they pulled back the tarp, applause erupted. Jacobs and Alex stood side by side, staring at their work with pride and exhilaration. Jacob shouted over the cheers. Alex exclaimed, his eyes sparkling. Every brush stroke and color was a testament to friendship, encouragement, and the power of believing in each other. In that moment, they knew that it all started with a simple but a small act of respect that had opened doors to new possibilities. Jacob looked at Alex, overwhelmed with gratitude. You know, this wouldn't have happened without that moment at the hotel. And you helped me find mine, Alex replied, grinning. Together, they absorbed the energy of the crowd, feeling the connections they had formed with the community. In a world often overshadowed by competition and fear, they had forged a friendship that uplifted them both. That evening, as the sun dipped and the streets lit with promise, Jacob thought about how an ordinary day could turn extraordinary. From asking for help with a suitcase to discovering the strength found in friendship and support, everything shifted. He realized that in moments of vulnerability, the most beautiful connections can bloom, transforming uncertainty into opportunity. As they began to pack up their things for the day, Jacob felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He had not only carved a new path for himself, he had played a part in someone else's journey too. And it all began when he asked for help with his bags, a simple gesture igniting a profound transformation. In a world where kindness often feels fleeting, he now understood, when you lift someone up, you may just find your own wings to soar. He asked for help with his bags, and in that instant, everything changed. The rain fell like a curtain on the busy streets outside the luxurious hotel, creating a symphony of splashes and murmurs. Inside the lobby, however, all Jacob could hear was the pulsing beat of his heart, trapped in a whirlwind of anxiety. Towering chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting a warm golden glow over people who flowed like water through the polished marble floor. Jacob stood at the entrance, drenched from the downpour, clutching a suitcase that felt as heavy as his worries. He looked around, feeling utterly out of place. It was his first job interview in months, and the stakes felt impossibly high. The prospect of failure clung to him like the dampness of his clothes. Taking a deep breath, he stepped inside, feeling somewhat sheltered but still overwhelmed. As he took in the opulence of the lobby, a voice rang out behind him. Jacob turned to see a young bellhop standing there, his dark hair neatly combed and his uniform crisp. The bellhop's smile was bright and genuine, cutting through Jacob's fog of insecurity. Yes, that would be great, Jacob replied almost hesitantly. Asking for help was never easy, especially when battling self-doubt. Name's Alex, the bellhop said, taking Jacob's suitcase without any obvious effort. Let me take that for you. I'm here for a job interview, Jacob admitted, glancing down at the suitcase, feeling the weight of expectation pressing on him. But I'm nervous, nothing to worry about, Alex said as they walked toward the elevator. You've got this, just remember everyone here had their first day once. Jacob felt a flicker of warmth spreading through him at Alex's words. It was comforting to hear someone reassure him, even if they were just a stranger doing their job. As the elevator door slid shut, the two were enveloped in a brief silence. Jacob's mind buzzed with thoughts of the interview. Would they like him? Would he really fit in? He wanted to believe he could do it, but the nagging voice of self-doubt whispered that he might come up short. Alex asked, breaking the silence with easy chatter. Yeah, I'm trying to make a fresh start, Jacob replied, his voice barely above a whisper. Hey, we all stumble sometimes, Alex said, glancing sideways. Just then the elevator chimed and the doors opened to reveal a plush carpeted hallway adorned with artwork. Jacob felt apprehension tightening his chest again, but Alex's steady presence offered a measure of comfort. Here we are, room 312, Alex announced as he wheeled the suitcase to the door and set it down carefully. Jacob fished for his wallet, feeling the weight of the moment amplify his nerves. He hesitated, unsure of how much to tip the young man when Alex spoke up. No need for that, sir, it's just part of my job, he said, waving off Jacob's offering. But I really appreciate your help, Jacob insisted, feeling both grateful and slightly embarrassed. Before Alex could respond, Jacob felt a burst of impulse. He blurted out, surprised by his sudden boldness. Alex chuckled, his smile broadening. They posed together and Jacob snapped the photo, smiling as he captured a moment that felt pivotal. Thanks, Alex. You've made the day a lot brighter, Jacob said, feeling lighter for the first time since he arrived. Just doing my job, Alex shrugged. But just as Alex began to turn away, he unexpectedly bowed slightly, a gesture that sent a ripple of confusion through Jacob. Why in that moment would a bellhop bow to him, a mere stranger? It's just a sign of respect, Alex explained, nonchalantly straightening up. Jacob stood there, momentarily taken aback by that small act. It felt profound, like a recognition of something deeper. Maybe he did deserve respect. Maybe he could step beyond his self-imposed limitations. After Alex left, Jacob leaned against the door, the weight of his suitcase now feeling oddly symbolic. There was something about that small moment of respect that stirred a change within him. What if he really could believe in himself? Hours crept by until it was finally time for the interview. Jacob paced his hotel room nervously, the echoes of uncertainty now battling the newfound resolve ignited by Alex's kindness. The rain had let up, and when Jacob stepped outside, the city seemed to sparkle in the sunlight. He took a deep breath, reminding himself of those moments with Alex that had sparked a flicker of optimism. The office building was sleek and contemporary, buzzing with energy and purpose. Jacob entered, heart racing and palms sweating. This was the moment he had been waiting for, and he refused to let fear dictate his journey. Inside the conference room, the interview commenced. Rapid-fire questions came from the panel, their eyes scrutinizing him closely. But as the questions rolled in, something remarkable happened. Jacob found his footing. He spoke passionately about marketing strategies and innovative ideas, fueled not just by his knowledge, but by the belief that had started to take root within him. The interviewers exchanged intrigued glances, nodding as they engaged with his ideas. He felt alive, part of a larger conversation. When it was over, Jacob stepped back into the bustling streets, a wave of exhilaration washing over him. He had done it. His heart raced with triumph as he made his way back to the hotel, the sun brightening every step along the way. He couldn't wait to share the news with Alex, the bellhop who had unwittingly impacted his life. As he sauntered back into the lobby, he spotted Alex at the front desk, helping a family with their check-in. Jacob felt an unexpected rush of gratitude for the young man who had played such a vital role in his transformation. Jacob called, waving to get his attention. Alex looked up, his eyes sparkling with interest. He asked, stepping away from the desk. Jacob replied, the thrill still coursing through him. You were right, see. Alex's pride shone through his excitement, an unfiltered joy that was contagious. I owe that to you, Jacob said earnestly. Alex chuckled, obviously pleased. Jacob chose that moment to reciprocate the kindness. What about you? Alex hesitated, a brief shadow crossing his face. I've always wanted to be an artist, but I don't know if I can, he admitted, his voice tinged with self-doubt. Jacob challenged gently, you have a talent and I can see it. Alex looked surprised by Jacob's conviction. It's just hard, you know. Jacob felt the weight of that statement resonate with him. I understand that fear well, it's the same one I face today, he said, but we could help each other. Alex's eyes lit up with newfound energy. Deal. As weeks passed, they met regularly to talk about their dreams, sharing sketches, marketing ideas, and the struggles that backed them. Jacob found motivation in Alex's ambition, while Alex drew strength from Jacob's determination. Together, they pushed through doubts, their friendship growing deeper. Jacob immersed himself in his new job, excelling amid the challenges. He would often return to the hotel to share his wins and setbacks with Alex, who in turn shared his vulnerabilities and victories in painting. One evening, under the glow of city lights, Jacob noticed something looked different in Alex's demeanor. He asked, sensing a shift in his friend. I painted something I'd like to show you, Alex replied, his eyes bright with enthusiasm but cloaked in nervousness. Jacob urged, feeling the thrill of curiosity spark within him. They moved to a quiet corner of the lobby where Alex revealed a small canvas showcasing vibrant, swirling colors. It's meant to convey emotion, Alex said, his voice trembling slightly. Jacob studied the piece carefully, feeling drawn into its energy. It's captivating, the colors express so much. You should put it out there. Alex's smile faltered. That's the risk we take, Jacob said, remembering his own doubts. Over the next few weeks, they embarked on an exciting journey of creativity and exploration, culminating in a decision to participate in the local art festival. They both felt exhilarated and terrified, but the prospect of sharing their mutual dreams outweighed the fear. As the day approached, they worked tirelessly on their respective projects, encouraging each other through the waves of uncertainty. At moments, both Jake and Alex felt overwhelmed, but always they found solace in one another's shared experience. When the day finally arrived, the festival buzzed with color and energy, tents filled with artists showcasing their work. Jacob felt a rush of nerves as they set up their table. It was a moment filled with anticipation and hope. Remember, Jacob said to Alex as they prepared, you are extraordinary. As the day unfolded, people wandered over, intrigued by their art. Atmosphere bristled with excitement, and Jacob felt like he was experiencing a dream. The attention was especially captivated by Alex's work, people admiring the emotional depth and vibrant colors on his canvas. As the day drew to close, fans gathered around Alex, admiring his art and encouraging him to display more. He was beaming, and Jacob felt genuine pride swell within him. You did it, you shared your art, Jacob exclaimed as they cleaned up. Alex replied, grinning widely. In that moment, Jacob realized how far he had come, how their friendship had blossomed from simple moments of kindness. Together, they'd conquered doubts, dared to dream, and celebrated each other's triumphs. That night, as they left the festival, the city lights twinkling like stars above, Jacob felt an overwhelming sense of accomplishment. In a world often darkened by uncertainty, they had illuminated each other's paths with hope and respect. He thought back to the day he had stood in the hotel lobby, weighed down by fear and doubt, and how that chance encounter had spiraled into something magnificent. It had all started with a request for help and the humility of a bellhop who dared to bow. For Jacob, that single moment defined everything. Together, they had tapped into the profound ability to uplift, remind, and encourage each other, building a foundation for dreams that could take flight. As they stepped into the night, Jacob knew this was only the beginning. He asked for help with his bags, and it changed everything. When Jamie stepped into the luxurious hotel lobby, he immediately felt out of place. The marble floors gleamed under the opulent chandeliers, where well-dressed guests floated past in a blur of laughter and easy conversation. Meanwhile, he stood in the doorway, water dripping from the edge of his umbrella, his old duffel bag weighing heavily against his side. A sudden rush of anxiety washed over him. Why had he thought he could just walk into this world? He was just a kid from a small town in Ohio, chasing a dream that felt just out of reach. This trip was supposed to mark the start of his professional career in the city of his dreams, the big bright lights that promised opportunities beyond imagination. But in that very moment, self-doubt pulsed through him, making the lobby feel even more intimidating. "Excuse me, sir," a voice broke through the chaos of his thoughts. Jamie looked up to find a young bellhop standing beside him, his neat uniform contrasting sharply with Jamie's damp clothing. The words tumbled out before he could second-guess himself. As the bellhop took the duffel bag from him, Jamie felt a mix of relief and embarrassment. Why did he feel so ashamed asking for help? He was a grown man after all. "My name is Chris," the bellhop said, flashing a bright, warm smile. "Welcome to the Grand Majestic. It's a business trip," Jamie replied, his nerves bubbling beneath the surface. "Exciting?" Chris inquired as they walked toward the elevator, the sound of the lobby fading into the background. "I'm interviewing for a position at a marketing firm," Jamie said, the very admission causing the pit in his stomach to grow just a bit larger. "Nice," Chris declared confidently, and the sincerity in his voice briefly loosened the knots of anxiety in Jamie's stomach. It was amazing how a simple exchange could alter his perspective. As they reached the elevator, Jamie's heart raced. The door slid open and Chris stepped inside, still holding the duffel bag like it was nothing. Jamie followed, pressing the button for his floor. While they waited in silence, Jamie glanced at his reflection in the elevator doors. Who was he trying to fool? He didn't belong here. Thoughts of not fitting in and failing at the interview spiraled in his mind. Chris broke the silence, his tone friendly and open. "Yeah," Jamie admitted, looking down at the floor. "I've lived in Ohio my whole life." Chris replied, his enthusiasm infectious. "Just remember, you've got as much right to be here as anyone else." The elevator dinged as it reached Jamie's floor, and as he stepped out, he felt a flicker of hope replace some of his doubts. Maybe he could do this. Maybe he could fit in here. "Here we are, room 523, Chris said, placing the duffel bag down with ease. "Thank you," Jamie said as he reached for his wallet, feeling a rush of gratitude. He wanted to tip Chris well to show his appreciation for the kindness he had just experienced. No need for that," Chris said with a wave of his hand. "Just doing my job." But before Jamie could thank him again, Chris did something unexpected. He bowed slightly, as if paying homage. In that moment, it felt surreal. Jamie blinked, caught off guard. "Wow, there's really no need for that," he said, somewhat flustered. "It's just my way of showing respect," Chris replied, looking up with a grin. That small gesture sent waves of warmth through Jamie. It resonated in a way he couldn't fully explain. Suddenly, he felt a little less like an outsider, a little more worthy of being here. "Thanks, man," Jamie said, feeling a smile creep onto his face. After Chris departed, Jamie closed the door and leaned against it, trying to make sense of what had just happened. He was still feeling the thrill of that moment when Chris bowed. It ignited something in him, a flicker of inner strength. What if he approached this interview with that same confidence? As the hours sped by, Jamie got ready, rehearsing his pitch in front of the mirror. The earlier doubts crept back in like dark clouds returning to shadow the sun, but he tried to drown them out with thoughts of Chris's kindness. Finally, it was time to leave. As he stepped outside, the sun breached through the clouds, casting a golden light across the city. He could feel the energy swirling around him, bustling and vibrant. He was ready to take that leap. The office building loomed ahead, sleek and modern. Heart-pounding, Jamie entered, determined to leave his nerves behind. The interview was intense but exhilarating. He spoke passionately about marketing strategies, his knowledge wrapping around him like a comforting cloak. This was where he belonged. When the interview concluded, Jamie stepped back into the sunlight. A rush of exhilaration swept through him. Did he really just do that? His heart danced as he made his way back to the hotel. When he entered the lobby, the familiar sound of laughter and chatter greeted him. He spotted Chris behind the front desk, periodicals tucked under his arm like a guardian of the entrance. The urge to share his excitement bubbled up inside him. Jamie called out. As soon as Chris looked up, his face transformed with genuine excitement. "Hey," Jamie exclaimed, practically bouncing on his feet. "I felt confident, see." Chris cheered, and in that moment, all the tension that had held Jamie back melted away. "I owe that to you," Jamie said. "Honestly, I'm just glad to hear it," Chris admitted, a modest grin crossing his face. "Speaking of believing," Jamie said, feeling emboldened. "What about you?" Chris hesitated, a shadow crossing his features. "Well, I've always wanted to be an artist." "I'm not surprised," Jamie said, studying Chris's face. "You seem passionate. Fear, I guess, fear of failure." "It feels easier to stick to what I know than to risk disappointment," Chris admitted, almost ashamed. Jamie felt an urge to encourage. "You have to show the world what you can do." The moment hung in the air, and for the first time, Jamie could sense a shift. "Maybe you're right," Chris said slowly. Days turned into weeks, and Jamie settled into his new role while building a friendship with Chris. They met frequently to discuss dreams, aspirations, and fears. Their conversations deepened, and Jamie realized that there was a profound bond forming, built on encouragement. But Jamie began to notice subtle changes in Chris. He seemed distracted, his smile sometimes failing to reach his eyes. One rainy afternoon, as they sat in a corner of the hotel cafe, Jamie decided to address it. "Hey, you've seemed a bit off lately." Chris sighed, looking down at his coffee. "Fear can be paralyzing," Jamie agreed, "but it's also a part of the journey." As the weeks went by, Jamie could see that Chris was still wrestling with his fears, but something was bubbling beneath the surface. He would mention painting in passing, but his amateur sketches still gathered dust untouched. Then one day, Jamie got an unexpected call from the marketing firm. They wanted him to lead a project, a colossal opportunity that felt like a dream come true. The excitement surged through him, but it quickly transformed into something else, a reminder of how delicate their journeys could be. "Hey, Chris," Jamie exclaimed, unable to contain the elation. Chris looked up, joy sparking in his eyes. "That's amazing, but now I have to lead a team. I'm feeling a little overwhelmed," Jamie admitted, the weight of responsibility settling in. "Just remember, you got here because you believed in yourself," Chris said. "Really?" Jamie asked, excitement rushing in tandem with uncertainty. "Yeah, I'm going to showcase what I've been doing, even the messy stuff. If you can put yourself out there, so can I," Chris replied, determination dancing in his words. Over the next few weeks, they propelled each other forward. While Jamie tackled daunting projects at work, Chris began to channel his emotions onto canvas, capturing vibrant visions filled with life and energy. Jamie felt inspired as he watched Chris evolve, finding his voice at last. Yet as the opening of Chris's first exhibit approached, something began to change in Jamie. Imposter syndrome crept back in, whispering doubt in his ear. It taunted. He found himself on late nights questioning everything he had built, the responsibility weighing heavy on his shoulders. What if he wasn't cut out for this? He found himself caught in a whirlwind of uncertainty, feeling as if he were on the verge of losing control. The night of Chris's exhibit arrived, and as they stood in front of the gallery, Jamie felt torn. He wore a bright smile for Chris, but inside, shadows lingered. The exhibit overflowed with excitement, spectators drawn to Chris's artwork. As the night unfolded, Jamie cheered and clapped for Chris, yet the nagging doubts threatened to expose him. As people praised Chris's work, Jamie felt stressed, a tear in the fabric of his confidence. Hours passed, and while the room buzzed with admiration, Jamie slipped outside for fresh air. The cool night enveloped him like a comforting shroud, but the freedom did little to ease his restless mind. His heart raced at the thought of the fragile balance between success and failure. Suddenly he felt a presence beside him, and turning, he saw Chris approaching. He said, a hint of concern evident in his tone. "Just needed a moment," Jamie replied, forcing a smile. "What's going on? You seem distant," Chris replied, studying Jamie's face. "I don't know," Jamie sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "I'm so proud of you, but at the same time I'm terrified of not being good enough." Chris frowned, his brow furrowing. "You have to push through those fears. You deserve this, Jamie." But just as Jamie started to feel the shadows lift, a loud crash echoed from inside the gallery. They both turned to see part of the display had collapsed. Gasps filled the air, and before they could run back in, they saw the dismay on Chris's face. Chris yelled, rushing toward the scene. Jamie's heart sank as he realized the chaos unfolding before them. What should have been a celebration turned quickly into confusion and fear. In that moment, Jamie felt his decision, his entire journey teetering on the edge of an abyss. Could he rise to this occasion and support Chris through the storm? As they approached the crowd gathered around the fallen display, Jamie caught sight of the tension on Chris's face. All of his hard work was at stake. The fear of failure loomed large, threatening to choke out any glimmer of hope. But he had to act. He reached out, grabbing Chris by the shoulder, looking him square in the eye. "This is a setback, not the end." The determination returned to Chris's gaze as he nodded. Would they rise up as allies, or would this moment shatter both of their dreams? Together they navigated the chaos, joining forces to salvage what they could. In that intense moment, the darkness shifted. Jamie felt the fire within him spark anew, a reminder that self-belief was their greatest tool. But just as the evening should have been about celebration, they both craved a resolution and answer to the chaotic whirlwind swirling around them. As they worked hand in hand amid the surrounding confusion, Jamie knew that their paths had intertwined beyond simple chance. The question now loomed: could they both emerge victorious, united in their struggles, or would they fall beneath the weight of their fears? The tension rested in the air like an unspoken promise, a challenge that would test the very foundations of their resilience, leaving their futures hanging in the balance as the night closed in around them.